Okay. Huh. Yes, that little moment when you first go live and you kind of wonder what to say. I just been down in the south of Dorset camping with my girlfriend for a couple of days, day and a half anyway, and yeah, it's just kind of like a reminder of because living here and then I'm going abroad a bit here and there and go to these beautiful places and whatever, and then just in my own backyard there's also a lot of amazing scenery and stuff like that. It's incredible. So I just got back from that, and like here in England in the south, it's like really sunny as well, which is just amazing. So yeah, it's just suddenly it's kind of come sunny. Didn't even You never really know with these weather apps. It kind of predicts it a little bit, but you never really know what's going to happen. Anyway, it's been super sunny. I was running a conscious clubbing event at the weekend, leading a bit of rebirthing, and also kind of checking in. A friend of mine was co-running it, who also runs Bioenergetic. My mate Anna Prem, Rob Wilson. He's also a surfer and a DJ. It was nice to see him. Oh, yeah. I've been working on doing some. It's been good recently doing my daily bioenergetic practice. With my, I can feel still a lock. Kind of a or tension block around the top of my lower neck, two little points of my shoulders, and stretching across my head. And I think it's been there like a long time. I'm kind of quite getting into it in the mornings and having to kind of really be vigilant and stay with stuff. I'm doing half an hour of a belly activation or so, and then some bow and arch. Even camping out in the field, if you find a quiet place to do it. My girlfriend's doing 21-day Osho Dynamic at the moment, so she goes out in the field as well. I'm no longer camping, as you can probably see. Anyway, well, of course, if anyone's got a question, you just go for it. Basically, if you tuned in for that, I wouldn't be surprised if you're in the UK, you're not tuning in because it is beautiful weather outside. I've kind of had so much sun in the last few days that I have to, yeah, I can feel my nose getting a bit red. When I was a kid, because I'm mixed race, half Iranian, I used to go very dark. But then as you get older, it kind of, I don't know, the melanin or whatever it is in the skin kind of changes, and I can feel myself burning quite a lot more than I ever used to. So I have to be a bit careful and get a bit of suntan cream and all that kind of thing. Just having a spot of this Fortnum and Mason's tea. Yeah, I'm happy with this YouTube channel. I like offering like this, and it feels like I get quite a lot of engagement from people, and it gives me a forum where I can just put stuff out. I'm also working often with other teachers and also living in a whole spiritual community with like 15 or so other people, and in that, it's much more of a group dynamic, where you got an idea about the community or something you want to do in the community, and it has to go through meetings and all of this. And these days I'm pretty chilled with all of that, and sometimes I wasn't, and because I wasn't doing enough of my own thing, and YouTube gives me that, and the workshops I do around the place outside of Leela give me that. So there's a learning there, and it's like, I might make a little video about it or something, but when you see your mind very busy or repetitively not very happy with a situation, try and work out what it is you actually want. A lot of us, I had times when I was really critical. I was really, really critical of other teachers or something like that actually, to be honest. And there was always, good stuff, and there was always bad stuff about them. And I realized at some point what that was pointing to me was I wanted to actually step up and teach more. And then it's like there's a relaxation, and other teachers are doing what they're doing, I'm doing what I'm doing. So it can be a great learning. There's so much once you get stuck in on this path of awareness, looking inside what's going on with my mind and what does it point to. Not to be endlessly navel gazing, to go out into the world, but also having that kind of practice and vigilance. Okay, I'm repetitively getting annoyed about this situation. What is it really pointing to? Is it really something on the outside? I'm pissed off with these other guys who are getting up there and teaching a lot or whatever. and I'm critical of them, what does it really mean? It means I want to step up. Actually, that was what it meant. And because it is the nature of this kind of ego in its defensive mode to project outwards, to find the problem in the outside world, and we have different little ways of doing it, but it's always a great practice to look what's going on in the outside world and how are we being triggered, because there's not any kind of strict rule with it, but you will find stuff. If you're habitually being triggered in some way, you're going into mental judgments and reactions about something going on in your life, there's going to be stuff for you in there. So it's just a matter of looking and breathing and saying, okay, there's stuff for me here. Why my mind habitually gets pissed off about this, why it habitually's got, I'm running stories and judgments about that. And when you can start to, root around a little bit inside and say, well, what is it that I really want to do? How does this thing relate to me? Then you can really start to use your own, critical mind, your own judgmental, competitive mind to move forwards, to see what it is that you actually want. And then when you move in that direction, you will get satisfaction. The thing is, of course, when we go for what we really want, often it's challenging. And often there's fear, if I really go for what I want and I don't get it, maybe that's worse. Maybe it's safer to hang back and to be a bit afraid or a bit in denial often, and just be judgmental or critical about other things going on around. That's, if you're critical about a certain category of person, you can pretty much guarantee you want to be, there's something there for you. Maybe you want to be that kind of person. There's something you want to do, or there's something there for you, so you can use this stuff if you've got bravery and awareness, and bravery and vigilance and honesty, self-honesty. You can start to call yourself on stuff, because I mention these things because it's not easy in the world to develop a lot of self-awareness without the use of a peer group. For years I had a peer group when I was going through therapy, and they call me on stuff and I call them on stuff. You see other people's behavior, you see the parts of them that they don't see, the blind spots, you call it in therapy, the blind spots. And then you can say it, and then other people can become more aware, if they're open to it. They used to say, if one person calls you a horse, you can ignore it. If two people call you a horse, you can still probably push it away. If three people call you a horse, you better buy a saddle. A very good therapist called Varesh used to say that. He come from therapeutic community, and that's the thing with feedback. So when you're doing intense therapeutic process, it's usually you got other people in the group. It's not one-to-one so much. You got other people in the group because they trigger you, and they can also give you reflections of what they see about you, and you can go into the feelings. Of course, it takes a certain courage, or a certain, what's the word? For me, it was like, it was essentially, I'm missing the word slightly, but the word was really, it took a certain courage, but also it was a certain desperation in me. Like, I don't fucking care anymore. I just want change. When I started to do groups, I don't really care. I don't care if it's a battle royal of people howling abuse at each other and me going into all the feelings and crying and screaming and being pissed off. I didn't care. Anything was better than the life I was leading at the time in my late 30s. So, that's what I learned. But the truth is also, after a while of doing that process, and even now, you can start to investigate what's going on in your own mind and draw useful reflections from it about what you really want, as opposed to what's going on in the front. Svang, hey man. Hey Dev, I have issues with expressing emotion, but when I meditate, I often get sentimental for days after. I feel like this is good for me, but it also scares me. Would you recommend meditation plus bio? Yeah, sure, man. Meditation is great. Meditation is great. And if it's bringing up, when you say get sentimental, I guess you mean you get in feelings. You get in feelings for some time afterwards. Well, that shows it's working for you, There's no real, meditation, when you're on a kind of path of awareness thing, which is basically what I teach, on a kind of deeper level with bioenergetics, emotional expression, whatever. It's path of awareness stuff, in that you're going into yourself, understanding what's locked and held inside your being, whether it's holding patterns in your body or trauma from your early life, all interrelated anyway. And you start to overcome that stuff and develop deeper self-awareness. And so anything which, brings up feelings is good, and it can allow you to say, to see, hey, what's going on inside of me? What's going on inside of me? Because what we tend to develop at a young age at an ego level is denial, denial. I'm fine. I'm fine. And, behind that statement lurks God knows how much subconscious repressed stuff. And you may be fine on the surface, and you anyway may not feel, to reveal too much in that situation where someone's asking you if you're all right or whatever. But nevertheless, the basic path I'm teaching is awareness. And so we are looking inside in a safe situation to say, hey, what's really going on with me? At some point, like I mentioned just now, you want the mirrors, you want the reflection. So if, to give you feedback. So if something is bringing up feelings, that's useful. That's useful to say, what is the feeling and where's it coming from, And you don't always need to know exactly where it's coming from. Sometimes in bioenergetics, you can process a lot. You don't even know where the fuck it's coming from, but it's being processed and it's moving on. And that's okay. In psychoanalysis, traditional psychoanalysis, you need to know where it's coming from, really. And that. But it sounds good, man. I have issues expressing emotion, but meditation gets me emotional. Then it's obviously working for you, Because, the truth is a lot of people do meditation, sitting meditation, and it's almost like a way of avoiding emotion in some way. They kind of cut off at the neck a little bit, get a clear space in their mind, but it actually can exaggerate mind-body split somewhere. Because ideally, meditation should allow repressed feelings to come up, in my opinion. It's not the only opinion that you can find about meditation. There used to be a common metaphor that some schools of Buddhism say you got like a glass of water and it's full of mud and it's all grungy and stuff. And, they would say, well, you just sit the glass of water down and eventually all the mud settles on the bottom, and the water's clear, and it's like a metaphor of the mind. But that wasn't the path I learned from Osho or Varesh, It was you shake the mud up and you get to investigate it and you flush new water in, and eventually you get rid of all the mud. You get rid of all the mud. So that was more the path I learned. But yeah, meditation and bioenergetics is a very good combination. And I often end my groups with a bit of meditation, also to let things settle. And because, sometimes, we're doing bioenergetics and we're bringing so much stuff up. What can be really useful is to get a hit of meditation at the end, so you realize, like, wow, I've really cleared something. It's possible, just to keep on moving and keep on doing stuff and doing stuff and doing stuff. And if you don't also give yourself time to settle and sit, you don't necessarily experience what meditation is, which is not having so many thoughts that you have to cling on to and attach to, and it creates a clarity inside. I believe in strength in the sense that a strength that comes from inner clarity, not a strength that comes from going down the gym and bench pressing 50 kilos all day. A strength that comes from inner clarity, from this journey of inner awareness. It's not a quick fix path. It's not a quick fix thing. You're not going to find someone with an American accent speaking very fast and selling you something for quite a lot of money, teaching path of awareness. You're not going to find that, That's what you do before you get into path of awareness, the quick fix strategies. This is like, okay, this is a slow unfolding, and along the way, the life gets better. Your relationships get better. Your friendships get better. Your love life gets better. Your work life gets better. All of that stuff gets better, but it doesn't happen it can happen in one session, but it doesn't always happen in a hit, and that's it. It's like, it's ongoing. Anyway, I've got a few people online, so if anyone is up for a question, just go for it. I've been doing bio and body-based therapy for a while. Sometimes I get locked in myself obsessively. When I'm stuck in obsession, what helps to shift focus? Well, obsessive patterns of mental thinking, I assume what you're you're pointing to. I mean, one thing is to move your body, and another thing is to really feel your body. Because we all somewhere have, habitual patterns of thought that can go around or be activated or triggered, and they may be really a drag at times. They really can be really annoying at times, or that you can just really feel inside it's not useful. And key things to do are move your body. Get your body moving. One of the things with thought forms that occupy a lot of negative thought forms or self-limiting thought forms, they don't thrive on movement. They don't thrive on movement. They want your awareness to be focused on them. It's like a parasite almost. It's come into the brain and it's trying to spew out negativity and take you over. And what helps is not to obsessively try and push it away. That's not really going to work. And put yourself down when it's there or anything. That's not really going to work. It's not going to give you anything. What helps is to move your energy. When I work with depression, one of the classic symptoms of depression on a deeper level is a tendency to tune into a negative radio station, which basically is saying there's no point in moving or doing anything. What's the fucking point anyway, And that a lot of depressives have. And you have to learn when that radio station is coming on strong to move your body to express feelings, to get your energy moving, And it's similar really when you're locked into any obsessive thought patterns. What helps to shift the focus is to keep breathing and feeling. Step up, get out, walk fast, do a run, do some bioenergetics, do something. That starts to break the hold of the mind. Because it's a curious thing, the mind, the thinking mind. There are, we do develop a certain stasis, where your mind goes through habitual rhythms in the day, and you have to learn to start to break those and allow more feeling to come out and out. All of that rigidity in the mind is basically holding down feeling. And these obsessive patterns come in, they try and assert themselves, particularly when something starts to shift. People come to a workshop often and then, they get really, really clear and they go back into the world and they're in a crisis, because the old thought form is still trying to get back in there. It's still trying to get hold of you and it's doing what it can. These kind of thought forms, they take you over because of the charge held inside. It's like the mind agrees to let the thought form in because the emotional charge held inside the thought form is avoiding, Maybe it's a thought form like a kind of thought form that says, you don't need to be angry. You never need to be angry. Just chill out and be peaceful, go with the flow. That thought form will come in when you're afraid of being angry, and there's a lot of invasion wounds in the body, invasion wounds of abuse or some form of, emotional abuse in the body. That thought form can come in because it's basically saying, you don't need to deal with your shit. So you got to look, like I'm saying earlier, it's good to see what's the content of the obsessive thinking and what's it really achieving. And then you can a little bit direct yourself if you've got the, the clarity inside. If you've got the clarity, it's okay, it's about this. This is what I need to go and do, and it'll probably be challenging because basically it'll involve some level of self-confrontation. You can't really move forwards without a willingness to self-confront, and you also need support. It's not just you doing it all the time, but or be open to support. But it's basically it requires this willingness to confront what is going on inside. Okay, thanks. If it does stop if I'm walking or in my body. I tend to sit and obsess and think and get locked in my head. Yeah, I mean, me too at times. Absolutely, But in the passage of the day, I can easily find myself getting locked into the phone or on my computer for too long doing stuff I don't really need to do. It's a habitual background mental state of attempting to maintain a stasis in the mind. It's a curious thing, the mind, because it has no real power, but it acts as though it does so powerfully. It's like it's really quite something. Yeah, it's difficult. It is challenging, and it's challenging when you're working on your own as well. It's challenging, but it can be done. It can be done. And you could also look at what the thought is, the thoughts are that are revolving around, and try and discern from that how you can confront that part of yourself. How you can confront that part of yourself, and that will also weaken the power of this thought form. A little bit of the old Fortnum and Mason's tea. Okay, well, if anyone else has got a question, do feel free to go and put it out there. It's an amazing thing, therapy, hey. And I just started reading this. I don't know, Dan Brown book. Like an e-book. His last one. And I thought, even but it's kind of doing the usual thing. I'm halfway through. It hasn't really told you what the big thing of it is, but I somewhere know it's going to be a load of bollocks. But anyway, they're such page turners. Have you ever worked with 12 steps? No, I never did any. I never did 12 step. I was kind of lucky because 12 steps usually you get into that from addiction, and I was kind of lucky with addiction in the sense that there was a lot of addiction around when I was younger, and even close family members being full on junkies and stuff. And I certainly had an issue with alcohol and at times weed, and tried the gamut of drugs. But I somewhere pulled myself out before I really got into a heavy shit, which means in a sense I never did the 12 step kind of process. I don't know. I don't know if it's my thing so much. I know quite a lot of people, being a therapist, who've done 12 step and who also, it overrides a little bit the emotional content, and it's certainly suitable for some people, and it's a lifesaver for some people. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And at the same time, it's not really within the remit of body-based therapy. It's a technique which really works for some people, particularly people who've gone to the real fucking low, with booze or drugs. They've gone really to the fucking low, or other types of addiction, and they're really ready to let it go and start again. They've hit rock bottom, and I guess I never, in my time with alcohol or drugs, I never really hit a heavy place like that, and I could somewhere guide myself a little bit out, before that. I remember when I used to booze heavily and was living in squats, and everyone was a waster around there. Sometimes I'd be living in a squat full of junkies in my 20s, and like somewhere I could pull myself out or start having cold baths in the morning or something, just get the alcohol out of my fucking system or the drugs out of my system and get my shit together. Something kind of stirred me. So I've got, nothing but respect for 12-step process, but it's for people who really want that path. It's a little bit Bill Wilson, I think the guy was, who made it back in the 30s or something like that. It's been around a long time, and it is effective. And what I also like about it, it doesn't try to kind of take over the world, as far as I know, or make dogmatic statements about this is the only way and that kind of thing. It's kind of got a dogmatism to it when you're in it, I understand, but that's necessary. So I think it's, I always have, if not sympathy, then feeling for people trapped in addiction, because they often need quite intense therapeutic approach, and that's the kind of work I've been involved in. Are you involved in 12-step yourself, man? I don't know if you were. It's good stuff. A guy I know recently is telling me he's getting involved in it for something, and I know a lot of people who've done it, but it is kind of, it's very different, it's very different. I know guys who've done 12-step and then they come to work a bit with me, and it's challenging because, you see, they found a way to keep all the old shit at bay. It's not gone anywhere, it's still active in the body. The old patterns that brought them into boozing or drug use are still there, but they've got mental formulations and support group to keep them on the straight and narrow. And you can't always, then go into body-based therapy, because it's going in the opposite direction. It's going to pick up all the shit. And when you've got a background of addiction, what that means is that part of your brain is hardwired. When certain emotional triggers, disowned emotional triggers come up, you're going to seek drugs. You're going to seek alcohol, whatever. Or it's hardwired is a little extreme. It's very nearly hardwired. It's going to certainly come up that you want to use, and you're going to need a lot of awareness, So in 12-step, the focus, as I see it, is more to keep you on the straight and narrow, away from the things that can trigger your old patterns of drug use. Yeah, I'm grateful for your bioexercise. I've been working on the gut. I heard "Please Love Me" when I went deep. I feel I've been looking for love externally all my life. Yeah, I mean, often we have to find it on the outside somewhere first before we can get it on the inside. In my experience as a therapist and as a human being, it's like, that desire. There's an exercise I teach quite often where people have to reach out to the group and say either please love me, please accept me, or please help me. One of those phrases usually resonates quite deeply. You stand aside from the group and you reach out. It's like a bioenergetic exercise and a group therapy exercise as well. And it's very powerful. And please love me is usually the one for me that echoes the deepest. This need to be loved. And it's good to go into it. It's good to go into it. But if you get stuck and lost there, it's not really so useful. But it is. Sometimes people are sort of like, I've got to love myself first. But that's kind of like a bit new age speak as opposed to the reality. The need for love is strong. The need for love is strong, and to feel loved by the outside is also important. It's important. The question, of course, is what are you going to do to get it? That's the question. Are you going to just completely corrupt and twist your natural personality to try and get love? Are you going to endlessly please to try and get love? Are you going to avoid a lot of parts of yourself to try and get love? Those are the questions. But it's great that you can admit it, and it's very, very common to feel that in the gut. Please love me. That in the heart as well. Hey, here I can feel it. Your videos are great. Thank you. Danny likes pizza. What would you recommend for anxiety? I mean, anxiety finally is centered in the gut. I'm pointing it, but you can't quite see it on the video. But so this belly activation thing that I've got going on my YouTube channel, you could look for that. There's a couple of versions of it. One of them's they're both quite intense, but one's more intense than the other. The second one's more intense, but give that a try. It's like anxiety is a way of kind of dealing with underlying feelings. I was always more on the anxiety side than depressed side, and there's often a kind of hyperstimulation that comes in a response to underlying trauma and traumatic feeling. I don't have a complete mental cognitive understanding of it. My understanding of depression is better than anxiety, possibly because I'm more prone to anxiety than depression. But I'm hoping to start to do workshops for anxiety, and certainly we will focus a lot on the gut. I mean, working with the gut is great, and also starting to really get real and understand what it is you're anxious of, and looking to find ways that you can start to come towards it, and to keep breathing and feeling your body. This gradual sense of challenge where you keep breathing and feeling, you're getting triggered, but you can allow something to process. What tends to happen is that the mind jumps in when we're triggered and starts to kind of move us out of there in some way or the other. But what we need is actually a safe way to encounter what's going on, a safe way to encounter the trigger and to be with it. In the same way that behavioral therapy, for example, which was popular back in the 60s and stuff like that, and still nothing wrong with it. You would learn to work out what created anxiety and start to get through it. Sorry, not get through it. I mean, you start to approach it, and you start to really breathe and feel what's going on. And this is also a great way to work with anxiety. It requires that self-honesty. To come out of denial and say, okay, this is creating anxiety. Often it's basic stuff around social friendships, around meeting women or men or whatever, lovers. I'm working the steps for sex addiction. I spend too much time in fantasy and neglecting my family. Lots of shame and fear of abandonment. Yeah, there's a lot of it about, man. Fantasizing, yeah. Trouble is, it takes us in our heads, I mean, I've lived in fantasy completely, then going out with someone, having sex with someone who's perfectly attractive, and you're just fantasizing about something else. It's scary when you're doing that shit. Often the underlying fear of intimacy is there, and that's like, again, something, there's an anxiety around intimacy and learning to find situations or partners where you can slowly move into that instead of kind of just dwelling in this fantasy all the time. There's an excellent movie called Don John or something, Jon, maybe you saw it. Can't remember the guy's name who is a star, but it's also got well, yeah, talking about escaping from fantasies, but a very pretty woman. What's her name? Scarlett Johansson's in it as well. But that's a good movie. I saw that about 4 or 5 years ago, and that's a little bit dealing with that, with the kind of the way that men are conditioned by society to behave around women, and what's really going on inside. And this guy is, he's going out to nightclubs all the time in New York or somewhere like that, and hanging with his guys and getting wasted and talking bullshit and chasing after women. And slowly he undergoes a kind of major change internally and starts to understand his own feelings and what's going on, and starts to own them through a kind of older woman he meets or something like that. Anyway, you can check that out if you're interested. But yeah, I spend too much time in fantasy and neglecting my family. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, it's difficult with this fantasy stuff. There's a lot of it around, and finally you have to kind of say, okay, I'm not going to fucking go there, but then you've got to find stuff that also satisfies you or that can move the energy. Otherwise you're caught up in a repetitive pattern of doing the negative behavior again, beating yourself up about doing the negative behavior, feeling guilty and shit, and then going back to do the negative behavior to take away the feeling, which I'm laughing, but that is the cycle of guilt, and it's also not useful. It's quite something to give up fantasy or to give up whatever the addiction is. So I wish you all the best with it, man. Have you heard of Osho Dynamic Meditation? Well, yes, I have, because I'm an Osho sannyasin and have been for the best part of 20 years, and we used to have to do Osho Dynamic all the time. It's a great practice. Totally great, to be really get yourself up in the morning and move your energy like that. It's awesome, Have you ever helped someone whose body's crashed from a spiritual awakening? I had a dark night of the soul coupled with a Kundalini awakening. I'm told the seed goes away slowly. Well, yes, I mean, that is kind of my area a little bit, but I don't always couch it as spiritual awakening. It can certainly feel like that, and I had a similar experience myself many years ago. But, so it sounds like you're in fatigue a lot now. I mean, something... often what happens when people have these powerful Kundalini experiences is that their minds or their body things become very, very active for a while, very, very active. But you're basically kind of experiencing some kind of burnout is what I can gather from this. Feel free to write a little bit more in. And it's good to see a little bit. I don't know before I advise anything, because usually when we get this strong fatigue, it's a little bit like chronic fatigue, or what they sometimes call I've forgotten the word. My memory is pretty crap, old years of drugs sometimes. But ME, chronic fatigue, when we get drained of energy. I get more energy week by week. I mean, it's the kind of thing I deal with a bit. If you ever want to invest 30 quid in a personal session on Skype or something, I'd be certainly up for that. Just get hold of me, look at the bottom of one of my videos and stuff. But essentially, it needs a little bit one-to-one to discuss, to make sure, because I wouldn't want to encourage someone to move too much or start to breathe and feel too much unless they're ready to. It sounds more like a chronic fatigue thing. And these kind of Kundalini awakening things, it's usually there's some level of muscle tremor or something like that that's going on, sometimes accompanied by some kind of light or explosion of light in the head, whatever, and this kind of thing. And dark night of the soul is some kind of ego crashing kind of experience. So I mean, I was bedridden for a month. I'm getting currently homebound. I get more energy week by week. I mean, if you want to check in with me sometimes and look at doing a little one-to-one session or something, I'll be happy to do that. Massive trembles and roots and etc. Bioenergetics can be good for this kind of thing, but it's good to look a little bit also where you were in life before and stuff like this. It needs a sort of bit of personal. I can't give a kind of blanket answer for people having these experiences. What generally happens in some form of spiritual awakening or Kundalini experience, because I get a lot of clients in this background and I've had a bit these kind of things myself, is what you really need to do is investigate all your shit, basically. All the psychological crap you've been through, investigate that. Sometimes with these kind of spiritual awakening experiences, people want to go on a whole long I am so enlightened trip, and that probably isn't going to give them very much. Move to Glastonbury and start wearing funny clothes. It's more, the kind of work I do is more saying, no, let's talk about your childhood and let's see what's held in your body. Because also with the muscle trembles and stuff, that's also a way the body's trying to release. It's trying to release a lot of repressed emotional stuff. And sometimes that's accompanied by some kind of awakening experience in the mind, like experiencing yourself as everything, oneness or something like that. And sometimes not. Sometimes not. But there's a lot of narratives out there about what it's all about, but I just look more at the kind of the body-based aspects, which essentially is, if a person's open to it, to start to get a bioenergetic practice going, to get some of the repressed feelings out of the way. I still feel I had a kind of an awakening experience about 24 years ago, fucking ages ago. I mean, bloody hell. And it's like, I still feel like I'm working to clear some of the blocks from that time, even, or from before. I'm still working on it. But I'm a very slow developer, which is what makes me a good therapist, I like to think, because I've been through so much stuff. If I had some massive spiritual awakening and became super enlightened, I'd probably be a fucking useless therapist. Might be good at other things, but I probably wouldn't have so much knowledge of the human condition. But yes, these kind of things are increasingly common. I think they've been around for quite a while, or they're not even recognised as such. Even I had this experience back in '94. I think it was early '94, something like that, and in Thailand, and it was about 5 years before I got round to actually placing it as some kind of experience, because I didn't know fuck all about spirituality or anything like that. And then I went on a little bit of an ego trip with it, and then I dropped that and just got into therapy and stuff eventually. But yeah, there's a lot of it around. I mean, part of it also is usually when we get this muscle trembling and release, it's also partly often a function that so much has been repressed in there. Finally, the body's just kind of let go, the mind's let go for a bit, and the body's just start to spasm stuff out. But if you're ever motivated to, I'd be happy to do a little one-to-one session, and we can discuss a bit what's a useful way forward, because it's a kind of area I do work in. But like I say, it needs a bit. I need to know quite a lot. It's good to meet the person a little bit, at least online, and get a feel for them. To meet you, and what I mean. Have I missed any other questions here? No. Well, if anyone's got a question, a little question that you just want to ask or whatever, then I'm very happy to do my best to answer. I'm looking forward to the summer. I've got a couple of decent workshops going on, and a few other things I'm involved with, and I'm going to be at Colour Fest and a few festivals here and there teaching bioenergetics. And I've also got a good 3-day intensive going on here at the end of June, and a 2-day intensive going on at the end of should have switched off my notifications, and a 2-day intensive going on in August as well. So I'm quite busy with stuff. Plus I'm running a 2-week sexuality gathering, and what else am I doing? Oh, the May Love Festival here at Osho Lila. I'm co-leading that with Amura. And so I've got quite a lot going on for the summer, and it's like the summer's never so good for therapy in a way. It's nicer to do the festivals. I mean, I understand, if it's like the summertime, you don't really want to get into a boiling hot group room somewhere and start screaming and wailing. July and August are not usually so popular for it, so I tend to leave those months and just do the festivals a bit. But you never know. Anyway, give me a question, someone. I'm gonna an elastic band somewhere I was gonna use. Shit. In my desk. Anyway. Aye. Yeah, been quite a long kind of a day in a sense. Me and my girlfriend bought this little dinghy for like 35 quid on eBay, and blew it up thinking, is it actually going to fucking work or anything, made in China, and started to paddle it across this lake in the south of Dorset, and it was fucking cool, it's great. Couldn't believe you could get something like that for the money. And yeah, anyway, what can I say of more therapeutic relevance? What's the summer? Seeing what goes on with you when you have to just go out and have a good time, or what I've been noticing in my own awareness is, where I always wanting to have a fucking plan half the time. We just had 2 days in the camping in the south of Dorset, hardly anyone around, it's a really idyllic place, and I can still feel my brain every now and again getting quite busy, that it wants to have a plan of what to do next, a plan of where we're going, even there's no need for a fucking plan, but it likes its little plan. I guess that's a kind of male characteristic, but I don't follow it too much. I just notice that background anxiety there sometimes in my mind, like, yeah, what's the plan? Let's get a plan together. It's great to have this space to really, to develop the awareness, to keep moving into new experiences and to see what's happening inside. It's really a gift. This life is a gift that you can uncover so much stuff. So much stuff coming from this background where everything's kind of pumped at you about the kind of person you're meant to be and supposed to be or whatever, and resonates, some of it doesn't. And then keep where also this older. When you get past 40, when I was in my 20s, I was like, well, when you're 40, it's going to be like a DOS, you're just like retiring and shit, getting really old, but actually just have more challenges is what you need. More and more challenges, not necessarily physical challenges because your body is getting older, but you need more challenge, this like stuff where you can still step up and take a position, step up and do something different, step up and say, hey, I'm fucking here, So I'm enjoying moving with that, and learning a lot in my own awareness. I often consider myself the slowest developer, and that has its uses. In that I can really see what's happening inside my own mind, helps me to work with other people. Anyway, let's give it another 5 minutes, and then I shall get out for a little last bit of sunshine and try not to burn the shit out of my face. But yeah. So if anyone's got a question, do stick it out. Do stick it out. I can see it's not so busy today. Maybe it's sunny in other parts too. Anyway, what I notice is that I put these Q&As online, and people check them out anyway. Afterwards. So I might only get 3 or 4 viewers. Sometimes I get 10, 15, but online at a time. But often it'll pick up 100 views or so in the next week or two. So I guess people get into it. I find myself, I often like, there's 1 or 2 guys I follow in different subjects, and then I just stick them on in the background, and they say stuff and talk stuff. It's nice to hear, listen to their voice, and see what's going on with them, where they're at in their life, and whatever specialist subject they got that they're teaching. But anyway, I'm going to give it another couple of minutes, and then if anyone's so if you've got a question and you're sitting there, just stick it out, because I'm going to give it another couple of minutes, and then I'll be back next Tuesday, basically. Yeah, I got this weekend. We got the last weekend of Leela life training, and it's a 9-month therapy process, basically a training, essentially. It's called the Leela life training, and this is the 9th group coming up. It's like 9 weekend workshops, roughly 1 a month, from September through to May. So, and it's the first year we've run this training here at Leela, and so it's been a huge success, and that's fucking great. It's good to. I always like to start things with a reasonable number of people. We've had about 25, 30 people on it the whole way through, and next year we can take a few more. But it's good to bring back this kind of quite deep body-based therapy. It's good to bring it back and to make it available to people. People are interested, And the great thing about a training over 9 months, of course, is that you essentially get to you get to meet a load of new like-minded friends who are all kind of into the same shit, because it's always a nightmare, getting involved in therapy and group therapy yourself, and then going back to your normal job on Monday, and of course people say, oh, what did you do at the weekend? And then you share about anything you do, and they think you're just a fucking weirdo, when they've all been going down the pub and getting wasted and all the usual, or whatever usual stuff they're doing and you were probably doing before, and you're like, oh, well, I've been on this group therapy experience for 2 days, most people are like, whoa, what the fuck is that? I guess it's kind of okay to do yoga or meditation a bit these days. I don't know if therapy's quite been okayed yet in British social circles. There's still the feeling somewhere that if you do therapy, it's because you're fucked up, basically. So if you say you do therapy, then of course that instantly means that of course you're fucked up. It's fucking crazy planet we're living on. But hopefully therapy gets a little bit more socially okay, you know, to just say, hey, I'm doing therapy. It doesn't mean you're fucked up. It just means there's stuff you want to improve about yourself. And maybe you are fucked up, but that's also okay. I've been totally fucked up in my time. Anyway, we're coming to about 45 minutes, and I think that's been a good little session. So I'm going to give it about 20, 30 seconds. If anyone's got a burning question to ask, then now is the time to do it, because you've got about 20 seconds. And then I'm going to switch off for the evening. Might pop around and visit my buddy and see if he wants to pop down to the pub for a summer evening's drink here in sunny Dorset. Could be a nice thing. I've got a open top car. It's getting a bit shagged these days, but it's lovely when it's just kind of okay, guys, I think I'm going to check out. Thank you for tuning in, and hope to see you again soon.